Styles make fights in basketball, so can SMU do it again and defeat Louisville for a second time?
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On SMU here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Appreciate you making us your first listen of the day. I'm Grayson Singleton from Locked On SMU, and our show today is brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase with Game Time. Coming up on the show today, Andy Enfield, I think, deserves major props for SMU's performance against Syracuse in Game 1 of the ACC Tournament. Plus, what does the Mykel Brown Jr. injury mean for the Cards as they take on SMU? I'll tell you about that sort of injury situation at the end of the show. But let's go ahead and get started because, I'll tell you what, this show is a lot easier to do today when we are previewing a game in round 2 of the ACC Tournament. Really, it's a lot easier to do when SMU wins a game over Syracuse instead of trying to recap a loss and put a bow tie on the season. So credit to the Mustang basketball team for getting us through today. But styles make fights in basketball. And it was something that Jackson Holzer and I talked about on Tuesday's episode that is really pertinent to right now. And that is the fact that SMU is going to have a chance to beat Louisville, not just because Mykel Brown Jr. is out, but because both of these teams play a very risky brand of basketball, and they play it the exact same way. Both SMU and Louisville are high-scoring basketball teams that love to get up and down the floor. And when you play that way, it comes with a lot of variance. And with a Louisville team that can be as hot and cold as SMU is, by the way, it presents a matchup that I'm okay with. And the reason it presents a matchup that I am okay with is for this reason and this reason alone. Because of what SMU is coming off of in their game against Syracuse. That's why. That is why I'm like, okay, I actually kind of like this. Because if SMU had just gotten through Syracuse and let's just say they won by 5, they had to hold on, things had sputtered down the stretch, then I would be like, oh, I really don't know. But you talk about good vibes, right? Vibes are everything in sports. Momentum means a lot in sports. And when the Mustangs put together that offensive performance in a way that in the reaction video I made last night, it looked like they found it. It looked like SMU found it. They finally have figured out how to play without BJ Edwards. They figured out how to combat whatever the opposition throws at them. Jaden Toome seemed to turn another corner in his development. It seems like they found it. And now they're going up against a team who's going to be without one of their best players who plays the exact same brand of basketball they're going to play. The physicality is going to be similar. The pace is going to be similar. The types of shots that they get up is going to be similar. Each team has their own little individual quirky weaknesses, but styles make fights. If SMU was playing a team that likes to slow the ball down, punish you physically, keep the ball as a half-court game, basically I'm describing Clemson, I would have a lot more reason for concern for this game. But I think SMU, because of the styles of everything, is in a pretty good position against Louisville. Louisville, by the way, ended their season 2-2. Now, they had a really tough ending to the season. 2 losses to Carolina and Clemson, and then wins over Syracuse and Miami. But again, you're talking about a team that now is going to have to play without Mykel Brown Jr. I'm not going to say never. I'm not going to say Louisville could not beat SMU without him, but I think SMU is in a good position to do so. Like, for some reason, this has a making, and maybe this is just emotional. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. This has the making of SMU getting one more without BJ Edwards. And BJ Edwards is questionable for today. He is questionable. I would not expect him to play. I would expect him to play tomorrow if SMU advances that far. But this just has the making of the Mustangs figuring out a way to get one more. To get one more without BJ. I don't know what happens Thursday and Friday if they make it that far. But this has the makings of the Mustangs still knowing where they stand on the NCAA tournament bubble and them figuring out a way against a team that plays a similar style of basketball than them to get it done. It has another efficient Boopy Miller day. Jerome Pierre coming up when you need him to come up. And unexpected contributions from somebody else. Yesterday it was Jaden Toome. Could it be a Corey Washington today who played well in yesterday's game against Syracuse? He played well. Could he exceed what his normal averages are in this game today? Could it be Samet Igatolu going to work on whichever big he happens to face, be it Ali Khalifa, Sanan Defru, whoever from Louisville? I could see something like that happening. You see my point here. Momentum can carry you a little bit. And I think the fact that they came off of a big game yesterday where they really played well, especially in the second half. It wasn't as if they played really well in the first half and then played Syracuse even in the second. They bludgeoned the Orange in the second half. Bludgeoned them. I think that carries over today, and I think they get a win. I really think they do. The Louisville is a much different offensive team than Syracuse is, a much more potent one. They can shoot it better. They can generate better shots for each other. They're not going to be spooked by when Andy Enfield changes up defensive looks. But something tells me the Mustangs have a good thing going for them in terms of how they played in the last 20 minutes of the ACC Tournament opener. And I think they'll carry that to a victory today. Now, I mentioned the Mustangs also knowing where they are on the tournament bubble. You know where that is right now? They are still projected in the last four in, according to Joe Lunardi. I think that they would probably be in. The bubble has not been all that great in terms of its performance over the course of the last 7 days. So I still think SMU would be in, barring some miracle. But they're still projected as the last four in. And the 2-11 seeds that are going to be facing each other in Dayton, those would be SMU and VCU, by the way, according to the projections. They win this game, they're probably off that line. They win this game, they're not playing until Thursday or Friday. That's what's at stake here. I don't think an NCAA tournament berth is at stake in this game. I think they've done enough. I really do. And that would especially be solidified if Cal loses to Florida State. I think that would probably get it done. Stanford's already lost yesterday, so they're out of the mix. So basically all we're looking at now is, can SMU get off the last four in line? I think a win over Louisville today absolutely does that. A loss yesterday would have been catastrophic. A loss today, I think you'll be able to survive. You might sweat it out, but I think you'll be able to survive it. But a win today, and we are all sitting pretty come tomorrow and come later this afternoon when I talk to you guys again to react to this game. So that's what's at stake, and I think they can get it done. I really, really do. Because styles make fights, and Louisville plays a favorable brand of basketball to SMU for the Mustangs to be able to get it done. Even sans BJ Edwards once again. All right, coming up next, Andy Enfield's awesome performance in the win over Syracuse. How good was it? How essential was it? And how much will he be needed today? I'll tell you about it coming up next.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. Texas won its first ever SEC championship on Sunday, beating South Carolina 78-61 and snapping the Gamecocks' 3-year run as SEC Tournament champions. In the Big Ten championship, UCLA dominated Iowa 96-45. The 51-point margin is the most lopsided title game in Big Ten tournament history. With a resume that includes 18 Quad 1 wins and one of the toughest schedules in the country, UCLA is making a serious push for the overall number 1 seed. But UConn has held that spot all season and remains the nation's only unbeaten team. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
The biggest stretch of the college basketball season is almost here. Buzzer beaters, bracket busters, and those unforgettable moments that everyone's talking about the next day. Being there live for something like that is bucket list stuff. But the hard part is always getting the tickets. Long queues, prices jumping around, and surprise fees at checkout. But the Game Time app gives fans the advantage with constant innovation. It's how you can unlock amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's incredibly simple to use. The Game Time guarantee means 100% legitimate tickets delivered on time at the best price. And here's the best part. Fees are included in the price you see. What you see is what you pay, period. The seat view feature is a game changer. You can see a panoramic view from your seat before you buy the ticket. It's my favorite part of the Game Time app. Plus, the zone deals let you pick the section and save even more while Game Time selects the seats. No stress, no guesswork, just a smooth experience from start to finish. That's exactly what you want during the busiest part of the season. So take the guesswork out of buying college basketball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, welcome back to the show. Want to tell you about our Everydayer Club here at Locked On SMU and here at the network. If you've been thinking about joining the Everydayer Club, now is the time. Again, you get ad-free shows and access to our group chat on Discord. And if you're signed up before the NCAA Tournament tips off, you can get into our Everydayer Club bracket pool on Discord for a chance to win Locked On merch. Should be a lot of fun, and it looks like SMU's probably going to be there. Right now, you can use code MARCH to get your first month free. Head to the URL at lockedonsmu.supercast.com. That's lockedonsmu.supercast.com, or tap the link in the show notes to sign up. All right, welcome back here, Locked On SMU. Hey, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you are brand new here. We would love to have you be a part of our growing community. So Andy Enfield, amidst all the calls from people to fire him and all of the manufactured reasons as to why he should be fired, Andy Enfield went out and had a hell of a performance in the ACC Tournament opener against Syracuse. And now to the point where he is the first coach, I'm going to make sure I get this crystal clear this time. He is the first coach in SMU history to win 20 games in each of his first 2 seasons. Not the first coach to win 40 games combined in his first 2. I think he's maybe the third to do that. But he is the first coach in SMU history to have back-to-back 20-win seasons in his first 2 seasons as the head coach. And at this point, as it's pretty much solidified, he's going to take them, to the NCAA tournament. I am not entertaining any more nonsense about him getting fired. Like, we're just done. We're done with that. He's not getting fired, nor should he get fired, and we're not going to entertain it on this show anymore. Nevertheless, he deserves a lot of props for the game against Syracuse. And I know Syracuse is not the greatest basketball team in the world, but there is something to be said for a coach who has the other team on skates. And that's what Andy Enfield had Syracuse looking like in yesterday's game. Syracuse had no idea what was going on. with SMU, especially with SMU's defense. And this is where Andy Enfield really needed to show up with his team playing without its best defender and its best glue guy. They had to be able to mix up looks and confuse the other team, because if SMU was just going to play any team, by the way, any team straight up, they were not going to fare well. Even Syracuse, they were not going to fare well if they just played a team straight up and the other team knew what was coming at them. They're already not good enough to do that anyway, and now minus your best defender, that just really would have been a bad idea. But Andy Enfield going from playing man defense to playing a 2-3 to playing a 3-2 to trapping the corners to giving it different looks. Like, I know he probably played actually 3 different defenses, but he actually gave Syracuse more looks than just that. Go back and watch the game. They're doing a lot of different things within those, really boil it down to 3 defenses at the most elementary type of level, right? But that's Andy Enfield. And you can look at, in the second half of that game, when SMU began to distance itself from Syracuse, just how much Andy Enfield was doing. Because after every single make, I was looking over at the sideline. I know the camera was cutting to whoever made the bucket, but I was looking over at the sideline and saying, all right, what defense are they going to be in? And Andy Enfield's holding up the 5 or holding up the 2 or holding up something else. He was judging what to do by the flow of the game and what was working and how SMU was getting back and just how Syracuse's offense was flowing or not flowing based on what he threw at them. And it was so different possession to possession. And he had his players ready to execute just that. Because you can do it. You as a coach can call it. But if your players don't walk into that game ready to execute that, hey, this is going to be our game plan. Our game plan is going to be, we are going to throw different looks at them. And we're going to adjust based on to what they are doing and how they are handling it. And if something's working, we'll keep doing it. If it stops working, we'll give them a new look and just keep them off balance. And Syracuse, even though SMU never pressed in the game, anybody notice this? It took Syracuse until 20 seconds left in the shot clock to really get into its offense. Now, in the interest of fairness, did a lot of Syracuse problems have a lot to do with that Adrian Autry was awful as a coach in that game? Like, just take the whole background and resume of Adrian Autry's out of the picture. Adrian Autry was terrible in that game. His team looked spooked. He looked spooked, and he never made any adjustments. So if we just isolate this one game, Andy Enfield ran laps around Adrian Autry in terms of the coaching matchup. Just isolating it to one game, remove the resumes from both coaches. You could objectively see that one coach was infinitely better than the other one was. But getting back to Andy Enfield for a second. We now have the resume. We've got an elite performance from him. Who's to say we can't get a performance from him like that in today's game against Louisville? Here's why I think this. And again, I know Syracuse and Louisville are different calibers of team. But anybody notice that SMU fixed its biggest problem of the season? Syracuse wasn't getting in the paint a whole lot in that second half. Did you notice that? Now, maybe that there's some desperation mixed in there. Maybe there is a realization that if we lose this game, we may not go to the NCAA tournament, and it would be one of the more colossal collapses in college basketball in the last 5 years. Maybe that had a lot to do with it. And if it did, I think they'll play with that same measure of desperation in today's game against Louisville at 1:30. But their biggest problem, talked about this on Tuesday, their biggest problem was that they could not keep people out of the paint. They kept Syracuse out of the paint in that second half. Syracuse did not get easy entrances into the paint, and it threw their offense off. They looked like a cart trying to go forward with only 2 wheels. They looked disjointed. They looked like they didn't know what was going on. They looked surprised, and they looked spooked. And they looked like ice skaters who were trying to finish a routine, but had only been on the ice 2 times. That's how they looked. Unprepared, like they didn't know what was going on, and that is coaching. That is Andy Enfield saying, we're going to throw a bevy of looks at them, and while they can't figure it out, I can trust my veteran guards on the other end of the floor to get stuff done on offense. That's coaching. That is coaching. And he's got to get his flowers for that. 2 20-win seasons. The resume looks solid to be in the NCAA tournament. And he got him there. I don't know Andy Enfield personally. I've never talked to him before, never met him. Never interacted with him. I'm going to guess he probably did some sort of deep soul searching about his team as to, all right, how am I going to get this team to where they need to go? And he's done it. They might be the last 4 in if they lose today. But he's done it. And it was courtesy of a performance from him. Because it was necessary to blow Syracuse out like they did. So again, he's going to get his flowers from me on the show. We're not going to entertain any more calls to fire him. Because at this point, they're beyond hilarious. He's going to be SMU's coach going forward. And it looks like he's going to take him to the NCAA tournament this year. All right, coming up next, excuse me, one last segment to go here on the show. Coming up, is there a double negation with these injuries to B.J. Edwards and Mykel Brown Jr.? Close up the show talking about that next. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood prediction markets. It's not you against the house, it's you participating in a live market. You can buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood prediction markets changes the game. It's people moving the action, so when momentum shifts, you can move with it. I always knew the game, but never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now I can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play-by-play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood, now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood Derivatives, LLC, a registered futures commissions merchant and swap firm. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. It's less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. All right, final segment on the show, closing it up as we get you ready for SMU and Louisville at 1:30 today. A little bit of an earlier start in round 2 of the NCAA tournament. I'm Grayson Singleton, and let's talk about the injury front because Mykel Brown Jr. is missing for Louisville, and B.J. Edwards is going to be likely missing for SMU. Now, B.J. is questionable. He is questionable, so there is a chance Mykel Brown Jr. has already been ruled out for the entirety of the ACC tournament. They'll have him back for the NCAA tournament, but he's done for the entire week. And this is their second leading scorer. Louisville is missing 18.2 points per game, 5 assists a game, and a 34% three-point shooter. This is a huge, huge miss for Louisville. But I also think from an SMU perspective, it makes it easier to do whatever you want. And there's a reason I put this segment after the Andy Enfield segment. Because without Mykel Brown Jr., Louisville is down a big three-point shooter. Now, do they have plenty of others? You bet. They still have a Ryan Conwell that's shooting at 35% from three, a Javon Hadley who's shooting it at 45%, and an Isaac McNeely who's shooting it at 39%. Oh, and by the way, even though he doesn't take a whole lot, Sanad DeFru has made half of his, if that means anything to you. Ali Khalifa has made 41% of his threes. Like, they are a dead-eye three-point shooting team. But it takes out one. But it also takes out one who is a dual threat in the way that he can actually carve things up. Because not only can he fill it up from the outside, but he can also break you down off the dribble. And he's a distributor and a playmaker as well. So Louisville's losing a lot in Mykel Brown Jr., even though they still have a crew that is ready to go. Louisville also gets less athletic with Mykel Brown Jr. out of the game. So that's also something to keep in mind. So the fact that they get less athletic, you take away a dynamic scorer and playmaker is big. But it also frees up SMU to be able to give Louisville the variety of looks that they really want to do with their defense. Because SMU's defense during the regular season was so bad that they cannot just play a team straight up. They can't let a team game plan for one defensive coverage. But if you can give them more to think about, that can put the brakes on your defense, on the other team's offense, excuse me. If they can confuse the looks, give you something that they're not really primed for, then all of a sudden, it gets a little bit easier for SMU to defend teams, which is something that they're not very good at. So here's what I'm looking for with the Mykel Brown injury and the BJ Edwards injuries. Can SMU get back? That will be the key. Can SMU get back and set up whichever coverage that Andy Enfield wants to do? Because if they're playing in the open floor and it's secondary break, it's in transition, well, now you've pretty much got to match up. They forced you to match up. But if you can beat them down the floor and get set up off of a make or off of a miss, you'll be able to have Louisville stutter a little bit, have to back it out, guards looking over to the sideline at Pat Kelsey, trying to figure out what to do. And there's no doubt they'll have a plan for this because they watched the Syracuse game yesterday. They will have a plan. But to give yourself the best option, you've got to put a wall in front. Make a wall, touch a player, and make them slow down. That's how that's going to have to work. Now, I did say this one thing. Off a make or off a miss. SMU's got to keep the turnovers down. The Mustangs cannot commit a bunch of live ball turnovers because that is one way to beat a team who is trying to set up a wall defensively, is to turn them over and then get out and run in the open floor. So turning the basketball over is not going to be conducive to success for SMU. If the Mustangs turn it over in live ball action, the Mustangs are going to have a hard time beating this Louisville team, even without Mykel Brown Jr. But if they can get back and give themselves the opportunity to set their defense and Louisville's guards not be able to predetermine what they're going to be looking at, possession in and possession out, that's the best opportunity SMU has. They're a team, SMU, that can play with Louisville because they too like to get up and down the floor and get a lot of shots up. They like that. They are going to struggle with a team like Miami, that slows it down, tries to play in the low 70s and whatnot. Miami's a team that cannot shoot from the perimeter, so they have to play a style that is conducive to what they can do. SMU and Louisville, on the other hand, are very similar. They both can shoot from the perimeter. They both can play in high volume games. And not only can they prefer it. So you're going to get a team that is going to want to do exactly what you want to do. How do you get the upper edge? By mixing up what they're going to be looking at. And if SMU can do that, I think SMU's got a shot. They have a shot to win this game. But the one thing they cannot do this, is turn the basketball over and let Louisville run in live ball action. That cannot happen. If they're able to make sure that doesn't happen, we're all good. And SMU's got a shot. But they take that shot away if they take away their ability to confuse Louisville. And the one way they can take away that ability is by not giving yourself a chance to set up your defense. That's going to be the key to this one. Defense win championships is a big, big feature in this game today. It is a huge feature in this game today. Can SMU get it done? We shall see. All right, that'll do it for Locked On SMU here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Be sure to check out our Everydayer Club as well, lockedonsmu.supercast.com, and tap the link in the show notes to learn more. Enjoy SMU Louisville today for those of you who will be watching. We'll talk to you guys later on this evening after the game. Not immediately after, but we will check in after the game. Make sure you make Locked On College Basketball and Audio your second listen of the day, and check out our 24/7 Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. We'll talk to you soon, guys. Take it easy.